The strongest weapon is to have no weapon, yet be armed. Musashi Miyamoto. Power in its most naked form is rarely born from sunshine and goodwill. It emerges from the crucible of conflict, shaped by the shadows it casts and the fears it exploits. Consider the Roman Empire, a monument to human ambition forged in the fires of relentless warfare and shrewd political maneuvering. Its legions, symbols of unwavering discipline and brutal efficiency, were not instruments of peace, but engines of conquest. They marched across continents, not to spread enlightenment, but to seize territory, resources, and ultimately, dominion. The Pax Romana, that celebrated era of relative peace and prosperity, was not a spontaneous gift, but a carefully constructed edifice built upon the foundations of military might and the constant threat of overwhelming force. The darkness of its origins, the ruthless suppression of dissent, the systematic exploitation of conquered peoples, are often glossed over in the romanticized narratives of history, yet they remain integral to understanding the true source of its enduring power. The Roman Senate, a body ostensibly dedicated to reasoned debate and the common good, was in reality a viper's nest of competing factions, each vying for influence and control. Alliances were forged and broken with Machiavellian precision, and betrayal was a common currency. The great orators, masters of rhetoric and persuasion, were not merely seeking truth, but skillfully manipulating public opinion to advance their own agendas. They understood the power of words to incite passions, to obscure facts, and to ultimately shape the course of events. Even the most celebrated emperors, figures like Augustus and Trajan, were keenly aware of the need to maintain a facade of virtue while simultaneously engaging in acts of political calculation, and when necessary, ruthless repression. Their power was not solely derived from their military victories or their administrative acumen, but also from their ability to navigate the treacherous currents of Roman politics, to anticipate and neutralize threats, and to project an image of unwavering authority. The gladiatorial games, those spectacles of violence and death that captivated Roman society, served a dual purpose. On the surface, they were a form of entertainment, a release valve for the pent-up aggression of the masses. But beneath the surface, they were also a powerful tool of social control, a constant reminder of the state's ability to inflict pain and death upon those who dared to defy its authority. The gladiators themselves, often slaves or prisoners of war, were transformed into symbols of both strength and vulnerability, their lives held in the balance at the whim of the emperor and the crowd. The games served to reinforce the existing power structures, to normalize violence, and to desensitize the population to the realities of conquest and oppression. The darkness inherent in these spectacles was not a mere byproduct of Roman society, but an essential element of its enduring power. Consider the Punic Wars, a series of brutal conflicts between Rome and Carthage that spanned over a century. These wars were not simply about territorial expansion or economic dominance. They were a struggle for survival, a clash between two great powers vying for control of the Mediterranean world. The Romans, driven by a relentless determination to destroy their rival, employed tactics of unparalleled ruthlessness, including the systematic destruction of Carthaginian cities and the enslavement of their populations. The phrase Carthago delenda est, Carthage must be destroyed, became a rallying cry, encapsulating the Roman will to power and their willingness to stop at nothing to achieve their objectives. The darkness of their actions, the sheer scale of the destruction and suffering they inflicted, ultimately paved the way for Rome's ascent to dominance. The Roman legal system, often lauded as a cornerstone of Western civilization, was also a tool of power. While it provided a framework for resolving disputes and maintaining order, it also served to protect the interests of the ruling elite and to suppress dissent. Laws were often crafted to favor the wealthy and powerful, and the legal process could be easily manipulated to achieve political ends. The concept of rule of law was often more of an ideal than a reality, and justice was frequently dispensed in a manner that reinforced the existing power structures. The darkness inherent in the legal system, the potential for abuse and manipulation, was an integral part of the Roman power dynamic. Even the Roman religion, with its pantheon of gods and goddesses, served a political purpose. The emperors were often deified after their death, elevating them to the status of divine beings and reinforcing their authority. Religious rituals and festivals were used to promote social cohesion and to legitimize the rule of the emperor. The darkness of superstition and the manipulation of religious beliefs were used to maintain control over the population and to suppress any challenges to the established order. The Roman Empire, therefore, serves as a stark reminder that power is not always derived from noble ideals or virtuous actions. It often emerges from the shadows, shaped by the willingness to embrace darkness and to employ ruthless tactics in the pursuit of dominance. Understanding this reality is essential for anyone seeking to navigate the complex and often treacherous landscape of power dynamics. The human mind, in its quest for power, often rationalizes actions that would otherwise be deemed unacceptable. Cognitive dissonance, the mental stress experienced when holding conflicting beliefs, is resolved by distorting reality to align with desired outcomes. A leader, facing a moral dilemma, might convince themselves that a ruthless decision, while unpleasant, is ultimately for the greater good. This self-deception, while psychologically protective, can pave the way for increasingly dark actions, as the individual becomes desensitized to the consequences of their choices. The ability to compartmentalize, to separate one's personal morality from the demands of power, is a crucial skill for those who seek to wield influence. A general, ordering an attack that will inevitably result in civilian casualties, must be able to distance themselves from the suffering they are causing, viewing it as a necessary sacrifice for the achievement of a larger strategic objective. This detachment, however, comes at a cost, eroding empathy and fostering a sense of moral ambiguity. Machiavellianism, a personality trait characterized by manipulativeness, a lack of empathy, and a focus on self-interest, is often associated with the pursuit of power. Individuals high in Machiavellianism are adept at exploiting others, using deception and flattery to achieve their goals. They are less likely to be constrained by moral considerations, viewing them as obstacles to be overcome. This amoral approach can be highly effective in gaining power, but it can also lead to social isolation and a reputation for untrustworthiness. Furthermore, the pursuit of power can be addictive, activating reward pathways in the brain and creating a sense of euphoria. This can lead individuals to become fixated on acquiring and maintaining power, even at the expense of their personal relationships, their health, and their moral integrity. The fear of losing power can be a powerful motivator, driving individuals to engage in increasingly desperate and unethical acts to maintain their position. The psychology of darkness is therefore intertwined with the dynamics of power, shaping the behavior of individuals and influencing the course of history. Understanding these psychological mechanisms is crucial for recognizing and mitigating the potential for abuse and corruption. The darkness is not an external force, but a potential within each of us, waiting to be unleashed by the intoxicating allure of power. A crucial aspect of wielding power effectively lies in understanding the motivations and vulnerabilities of others. Dark psychology provides tools for analyzing and predicting behavior, allowing individuals to anticipate and manipulate the actions of their rivals and allies alike. Techniques such as framing, the art of presenting information in a way that influences perception, can be used to shape public opinion and to control the narrative surrounding events. For example, a politician might frame a controversial policy as a necessary measure to protect national security, thereby appealing to people's fears and justifying their actions. Similarly, the use of propaganda, the systematic dissemination of biased or misleading information, can be used to undermine opponents and to promote one's own agenda. Understanding the psychological principles that underlie persuasion and influence is essential for anyone seeking to wield power in the modern world. Emotional intelligence, the ability to understand and manage one's own emotions and the emotions of others, is also a critical asset. A leader who can empathize with their followers, inspire their loyalty, and motivate them to achieve common goals is far more likely to succeed than one who relies solely on coercion or intimidation. However, emotional intelligence can also be used for manipulative purposes, allowing individuals to exploit the vulnerabilities of others and to gain their trust in order to betray them later. The line between genuine empathy and calculated manipulation can be blurred, and it is often difficult to discern the true intentions of those who wield power. The study of dark psychology, therefore, provides a framework for understanding the complex interplay between power, influence, and manipulation, offering insights into the darker aspects of human behavior and the strategies used by individuals to achieve their goals. The competent strategist understands that information is a weapon. Knowledge of an opponent's weaknesses, their fears, their desires, can be leveraged to gain an advantage. This involves careful observation, subtle probing, and a willingness to exploit vulnerabilities. The darkness here lies not in the acquisition of information itself, but in its potential use for malicious purposes. A whisper campaign, designed to damage an opponent's reputation, relies on the dissemination of carefully crafted falsehoods that exploit pre-existing biases and anxieties. Surveillance, both overt and covert, can be used to monitor the activities of rivals and to gather intelligence that can be used against them. The ethical considerations involved in the use of information as a weapon are often disregarded in the pursuit of power, as individuals prioritize their own self-interest above all else. The ability to maintain composure under pressure is also essential for those who seek to wield power. A calm demeanor, even in the face of adversity, can project an image of strength and competence, inspiring confidence in followers and intimidating opponents. The Stoic philosophy, with its emphasis on reason, self-control, and acceptance of fate, provides a framework for cultivating this mental fortitude. A leader who is able to remain rational and objective in the midst of chaos is more likely to make sound decisions and to navigate difficult situations effectively. However, the suppression of emotions can also have negative consequences, leading to burnout, cynicism, and a lack of empathy. The ability to balance emotional control with genuine human connection is therefore a crucial skill for those who seek to lead with integrity. The darkness inherent in the pursuit of power lies not only in the tactics employed, but also in the psychological toll it takes on those who wield it. The acquisition of influence often necessitates the cultivation of a detached persona, a strategic distancing from the emotional fray that allows for cold calculation and ruthless execution. Consider, for example, the corporate takeover, a brutal ballet of financial maneuvering and psychological warfare. A failing company, ripe for acquisition, becomes the target. Its stock price languishes, its leadership falters, and its employees brace for the inevitable. The predator, a larger, more powerful corporation, circles its prey, its intentions masked behind carefully worded press releases and seemingly innocuous inquiries. The initial approach is often subtle, a tentative offer to collaborate, a friendly overture to explore synergies. But beneath the surface of cordiality lies a cold calculation, a determination to exploit weakness and seize control. As the takeover bid intensifies, the tactics become more aggressive. Hostile tender offers are launched, bypassing the existing management and appealing directly to shareholders. Proxy battles ensue, with both sides vying for control of the board of directors. Information warfare is waged in the media, with carefully leaked documents and strategically planted stories designed to undermine the target company's reputation. The CEO of the failing company, once a respected figure, finds himself besieged by attacks on his character, his competence, and his vision. His every move is scrutinized, his every statement dissected, and his every weakness exploited. He becomes isolated, paranoid, and increasingly desperate. His loyal lieutenants, fearing for their own careers, begin to distance themselves, offering tacit support to the predator in exchange for promises of future employment. The employees caught in the crossfire suffer the most. Uncertainty breeds anxiety, productivity plummets, and morale collapses. Rumors of layoffs and plant closures spread like wildfire, further fueling the sense of despair. The takeover becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, as the target company's performance deteriorates under the weight of the assault. Throughout this process, the acquiring company maintains a facade of unwavering resolve and strategic brilliance. Its executives, clad in impeccably tailored suits, project an image of calm confidence and ruthless efficiency. They speak of creating value, streamlining operations, and unlocking synergies, but their true motivation is power, control, and the relentless pursuit of profit. They are masters of deception, adept at manipulating public opinion and exploiting the weaknesses of their opponents. The human cost of the takeover is largely ignored. The layoffs, the plant closures, and the shattered careers are dismissed as necessary sacrifices in the name of progress. The acquiring company's executives retreat to their corner offices, where they dissect their victory, oblivious to the consequences that their actions inflict on the victims. It is a brutal, calculated game, where empathy is a liability and compassion a weakness. The darkness that fuels such a relentless pursuit of power resides in the willingness to inflict pain and suffering on others in the name of ambition. The victors, desensitized by their own success, fail to recognize the profound moral compromises they have made along the way. The trap for the weak lies in their predictable reactions. They see aggression and instinctively recoil, offering the very space the predator seeks to occupy. Like a cornered animal, they lash out ineffectually, wasting energy on futile displays of defiance. Their fear becomes a beacon, drawing further attacks. The weak mistake goodwill for weakness and project their own naivete onto their adversaries. They believe in fairness in playing by the rules, while their opponents are rewriting the rules entirely. They clutch at outdated strategies, blinded by nostalgia for a world that no longer exists. Their decision-making is clouded by emotion, by resentment, by a desperate clinging to the status quo. They are unable to adapt, to innovate, to anticipate the next move. The weak cling to their illusions, even as reality crumbles around them. They tell themselves comforting lies, that the aggressor will eventually tire, that justice will prevail, that things will somehow return to normal. This self-deception becomes their prison, blinding them to the true danger. They become paralyzed by inaction, hoping for a miracle rather than forging their own path to survival. Their allies, witnessing their decline, begin to distance themselves, fearing association with failure. The weak find themselves increasingly isolated, abandoned by those who once offered support. They become easy prey, picked off one by one, until nothing remains of their former strength. Their downfall serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that in the arena of power, sentiment is a luxury and weakness is a fatal flaw. The weak seek solace in morality, believing that righteousness alone will protect them. They fail to understand that morality without strength is merely an invitation to exploitation. Their ethical principles become weapons against themselves, handicapping them in the fight for survival. They preach about fairness, while their opponents are sharpening their knives. They appeal to reason, while their opponents are appealing to fear. They believe in the power of dialogue, while their opponents are preparing for war. The weak are easily distracted by trivial matters, by internal squabbles, by petty grievances. They lose sight of the larger strategic picture, becoming embroiled in meaningless conflicts that drain their resources and undermine their unity. Their attention is scattered, their focus diluted, their energy wasted on inconsequential battles. While they are bickering amongst themselves, their enemies are consolidating their power, preparing for the final assault. The weak crave approval, seeking validation from others. They are easily swayed by flattery, by promises of recognition, by appeals to their vanity. They are puppets, dancing to the tune of their manipulators, unaware that they are being used as pawns in a larger game. Their need for acceptance blinds them to the true motives of those who offer it, leading them into traps they cannot escape. The weak are prisoners of their own past, unable to break free from outdated beliefs and patterns of behavior. They cling to tradition, even when it is clearly failing them. They resist change, fearing the unknown, preferring the comfort of familiarity to the possibility of progress. Their rigidity becomes their undoing, rendering them unable to adapt to the ever-changing demands of the environment. The Machiavellian understands that the world operates on a different set of principles than those espoused in polite society. He sees that beneath the veneer of civility lies a constant struggle for dominance, a relentless competition for resources and influence. He recognizes that power is not given, but taken, that it is not maintained through good intentions, but through strategic action and calculated manipulation. He acknowledges the role of darkness, not as an inherent evil, but as a necessary tool for achieving one's objectives in a world that is inherently amoral. The Machiavellian is not bound by conventional morality. He does not seek to be liked, but to be respected, or, failing that, feared. He understands that popularity is a fleeting and unreliable asset, while power is a durable and tangible force. He prioritizes effectiveness over ethics, judging actions not by their inherent virtue, but by their practical consequences. He is willing to make difficult choices, to sacrifice short-term gains for long-term advantage, to do whatever is necessary to secure his position and advance his interests. The Machiavellian studies human nature with a cold and detached eye, observing the patterns of behavior, the motivations and vulnerabilities of others. He understands that people are driven by a complex mix of emotions, desires, and fears, and that these can be exploited to achieve one's own ends. He is adept at identifying the weaknesses in others, the flaws in their character, the chinks in their armor, and using this knowledge to his advantage. The Machiavellian is a master of deception, adept at concealing his true intentions, masking his emotions, and manipulating the perceptions of others. He understands the power of appearances, the importance of maintaining a carefully crafted image, and the ability to project an aura of confidence and control, even when he is feeling uncertain or vulnerable. He uses flattery, persuasion, and intimidation to influence others, tailoring his approach to suit the individual and the situation. The Machiavellian is a strategist, always thinking several steps ahead.